It's a great day. My name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the number one business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we are on a mission. And our mission is to empower, our mission is to inspire, and our mission really is to provide you, that's right, you, the entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. And on this episode, we have the one and only Tonitia. She's in the building, and she's going to be talking about the 4 Hope Formula. I mean, what is this? How you can be really empowered in your life, interesting, empowered in your business, is that possible? And empowering it through education. Woo, a lot of changes going on there. So it'll be a pretty interesting conversation. What's going on, Tonitia? How you doing?
Hello, Shay. I'm doing just well. Thank you for having me on your platform. I'm excited.
Well, thank you for being here. It's an honor and a privilege. And thank you for tuning in. And thank you for watching, by the way, and allowing us to stream into your home during these very, I'll say, remarkable and challenging times that we're living in right now. So thank you. Now, before we get started, they're going to read your bio. But, you know, one of your key philosophies is empowerment, or empowering women and a few good men to do some amazing things. Now, empowerment or empowering means so many things to so many people today. What is your definition of empowering or is empowerment? What's your definition, and what does it mean and look like for where we are in the world today?
Shay, that is a loaded question, but if I had to put it in my terms, as calling myself the education enthusiast and thought leader, I would say empowering is all about what's within your grasp, what's within your reach, that you are able to authentically and organically, in your capacity, show up to make the change that's necessary for you. So many times I think that people are looking, because social media is a great thing, but sometimes others are looking at other people's lives. So empowerment is about what you have within you, your capacity in order to meet those milestones and goals in order to operate at your full capacity. That's in a nutshell, that's what empowership, that's what that means to me.
And what's one of the things that's holding, I'll just say women, because I know they'll see your bio, and empowering women is one of your first steps and what your focus is. Why are women struggling these days with just being empowered? I mean, you think there's more tools than ever before, at least in the history of the world. There's access to many different points. Yet today we find ourselves in a place where women aren't being empowered. So I guess the question is, what's holding them back? What are some struggles, some of the challenges they're having these days?
So, Shay, I'm so very glad that you asked again. You know, I work with families, I work with students, I work with scholars, I work with learners, but one of my prize populations that I work with is women and underserved communities. And I can say this, when you're talking about specifically as it pertains to women and their barriers, as it pertains to empowership, are some of the gender-based roles. And I hate to say this, and I know that we're in a society that's, girls rock, and they do, but unfortunately some of them are encompassed around what the regular roles say they should do. They have other, even though, I'm married, I'm a grandmother, I'm all this good stuff in my bio, but a lot of times women just innately take on, the responsibilities of caregiving, of rearing the children, and sometimes they're frowned upon when they want to go outside of the box to do something that's empowering, that's different. When they want to be self-starting trendsetters, sometimes they're looked upon differently. And I don't care what anyone says. The truth is the truth, Shay, and reality is reality. Stats are stats, and I got stats that I could pull up, but I can't, regurgitate them at this time. But there's all those things, and I'm not going to say that men don't suffer from imposter syndrome, but women more so suffer from imposter syndrome, especially when people are trying to keep them in these safe spaces, these safe boxes. So yes, I say that those barriers with women, and they can walk more tall and proudly than and live out loud in their destiny than they ever thought. But a lot of times the barriers are not with others, it's with them. It's how they see themselves, and their lack versus of how the power that they have within and how they can stand tall in it. So I could go on and on and on and on, Shay, because I know that we're going to talk about a lot of different things, but that's always my favorite, because I actually had to overcome some of those barriers, before we get to, to tell my story about how the 4-step hope system even came about. With you talking about healing, optimization, positivity, and expectancy. Sometimes in the traditional roles and in society, it's
Mhm.
harder for women, and especially women from marginalized communities, women of color. If DEI has taught us anything, the Caucasian women has barriers to overcome, but we definitely, if they've got 4 to overcome, we've got 6 to overcome. But don't
Mm,
get me going on that one.
I
you
love
know,
it. And,
yes.
and we're going to get into, you can hear her excitement, you can hear her passion coming through, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get into her For Hope system. We're going to find out what that is. And we're also going to get into a little bit about her background. But I'm
Mhm.
curious, what would you say to the person that's watching now, a woman, could be a male, that's like, Shay, I had some past challenges in my past life, and I'm
Mhm.
having a hard time getting over those right now. Now she's not a counselor, ladies and gentlemen, so we're not going to ask you to sit
Nope.
on her couch right now. But if you could
Mhm.
offer, had a minute or two to kind of say, hey, here's some things that I would do to kind of help move them forward. And it could have been in their childhood, and it's
Mhm.
really bugging them. I know you're about recreate and you're about
Yes.
rebuild. So I'm just curious,
Yes.
what would you say to that person?
So with that person, the first thing that I would say, male, female, marginalized, underrepresented, regular community, the first thing is to, in order to recreate and transition, which are the premises of the Four Hope, Four System, as it pertains to hope, is you have to stop, you have to analyze, you have to evaluate what's within your setting, and you can't look at the whole pie. You can't look at the knife. You can't look at the plate. You got to look at one item at a time, one step at a time. And it's kind of like when you hear the financial gurus as it pertains to, dealing with your debt. Some will say, get the credit card with the highest balance and pay that off first. Now, in theory, that makes sense because you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck, right? Not really. Because for those people that don't feel like they've had a win, it's going to be more lucrative for them to get the credit card that has the smallest balance, that they can sacrifice a little and pay off, even if it has the biggest APR to it. Everyone likes a win. Everyone likes to feel like they're able to celebrate themselves in some shape, form, or fashion. So, the first thing that I would tell those that are having some struggles is to start where you are with what you can do to celebrate a win. So, for instance, if you've been trying to get to school and you've been trying for 4 years, and without avail have not had it to happen, the first thing you need to do is say, okay, what are some of the first 2, 3 things that I need to do that I've got in my capacity to do when I get off from work, and take about 15 minutes to do it. You could call the school, have them point you in the right direction, and get on the phone or send information to that person. That's 3 steps. 3 things you didn't do in 4 years, because what you do, you looked at every step and got overwhelmed. You looked at the credit card with the highest APR, and you tried to tackle that, when what you needed to do was find the credit card with the highest APR but with the smallest amount on it and pay that off. And then you can check off, I did it. I did a step towards, counseling my debt. So I always, and when I'm working with clients, working with people, I always say, start where it's practical. Start where you can celebrate a win. It may not be ideal. It may not make sense to anyone else, your plan of action for you to meet a goal, but it's not about them. It's about you. So that's what I would always start with people. And that's the O in my system, which is optimizing kind of where you are with what you have within your capacity, within your reach, so that you are able to obtain a goal, meet a milestone. Because people just
Mm,
get overwhelmed, Shay. You,
I
me,
love it.
them, anyone else, you know. So
Mhm.
that's where I would start first with, if they're stuck, start with where you can celebrate a win.
I love it. And if you can take a moment, folks are hearing you. They're hearing your passion. They haven't read your bio. Somebody right now is in the kitchen. Someone may be driving down the road. Someone's listening to the podcast. And we appreciate it. If we're in your ears right now, thank you so much. Or maybe we're on your big screen TV. Shout out.
Yes.
We're so excited about that. Take a
Yes.
moment, if you would, and tell them, the question, who are you? Because you've said so much so far. So they like to know who you
Mhm.
are and what was the backstory that led to the defining moment that you're now doing what you're doing with so much passion now.
Oh, thank you, Shay. Again, I thank you so very much for allowing me to come on your platform and share your audience and your platform with me. I really do appreciate that. And also giving a shout out to, my person who I'm instructor in her institute, Carolyn Wilson. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very much. So, who I am a wife. I am a mother. I am a grandmother. I am an education enthusiast and thought leader. And from the early days, some people think, and this is the other thing that I like to talk to people about, sometimes with who you are to your core, you're a professional long before you get a degree, long before you get a license, long before you get any certification. So the reason that I say that is because from the days of me flipping burgers at Burger King and McDonald's, I have always been an educator, and I've always been a trainer. I've always been a leader, far a teacher, far long before I stepped into a university to get a degree or take a state test to get certified with that degree. So that is me from day one. I've always been a person to believe, because I am the country girl from down the dirt path on the other side of the railroad tracks who's always been a big dreamer. I've always been different. I've always been odd, and I never really fit in. I've always been the person in my family. I'm the oldest child on my mother's side of children and my father's side of children, who are both now resting, which is part of my backstory. And so that's always been a part of me, is to teach and train and serve and lead. And so by trade, I eventually took all of that skill set and transferred it into the School of Education, where I ended up getting a master's in curriculum instruction, K-12, elementary K-6 certification, a reading K-12 specialist. And so I've taken all of that to do what it is that I love to do, but have done basically ever since I was a teenager, which is to train and find systematic ways and processes to do things. And that is basically what leads me up into my backstory and journey. So I got into my career. I had an extremely successful teaching career where I was handpicked and selected for a lot of teacher leadership. And on the outside, I looked like I was winning. But 2015 to 2018, and that's part of some of what I wrote in as a contributing author in her story, uh, showed me something different. It gave me a real run for my money. So, to make a long story short, I lost my biological father 17 months later. I lost my stepmother, which was my second mother. And the reason that I was an educator, and 8 months after she passed, my mother passed suddenly. I was going through, and I don't mind mentioning this word, if you would say, on your platform, but it's not a dirty word anymore. I was also going through perimenopause, which we talk more now about than we did before. It is not taboo. It is something very natural. And I was going through empty nesters with my children, and they put my husband on second shift. So I my whole system is based upon reinventing, transitioning with hope, because what I had to do on the outside, I looked like I was winning. I was being hand selected for leadership and opportunities in my school and in my district. And I was mentoring beginning teachers, which would be your Teach for America teachers, novice teachers. I was doing all this leadership and, teacher of the year at my building. And Shay, and to your community, I was dying on the inside. I was having a public success and a private failure. I want that to sink in for a minute. So many times, that's why my heart goes to families and women and communities, because we are taught you've arrived because you have this certification. You've arrived because you've been hand selected to do these opportunities. But I was inside, I was a person that was dying, grief stricken person in an extremely dark place, that out of 300, what, 64, 65 days a year, I cried 363 days of those. And the 2 or 3 days that I didn't cry of that year, I probably just didn't have any tears left. I was dry. So that is when I came up with this four-step system, and I started taking some control in my life in 2019. I was a Here's something else, Shade, in your
Hmm.
community. When you are an educator the way that I am, even though we're not the back in the day educators, we still have these norms that we follow as educators. You can't talk too loud. Don't speak over this person. Don't talk in a forceful way. And so I was a rule follower. I did what I was asked. Now, when it came to my students and their well being and their success, then I closed the door, did what I had to do. But I say that, Shay, because you asked me at the top of the hour about what did it look like. And it looked like times that I buried a parent, went right back to work because I thought that was expected to me. I didn't even grieve. I didn't even have time to find myself. I was back leading children, leading teachers, leading in my school, doing things in my district, and I hadn't taken care of myself. But in 2019, my sister, who just got her doctorate degree, invited me to her birthday and wedding anniversary trip on a cruise in February. Now, educators know we have our set times that they've built in for us. That's during the summer, that's during, the Christmas break, that's during those things. You take those times off and it's okay. Shay, for the first time, I stood up for myself and said, you know what? If I were to drop dead in this building right now, they would carry me out, they would post my position, and then I would just be another person in the obituary who followed the rules and didn't live life. From that point forward, I did go on that cruise. I did take a week out from my classroom and I didn't care. And I began to start following the four-step system of healing, optimization, positivity, and expectancy. That's really when it was birthed, and I started following the plan myself of how do you recreate yourself, how do you transition yourself. And at that point, where the year before I had given my principal a year notice to leave my very successful, highly acclaimed career as an educator, who rose from the dirt paths of my hometown as a little black girl on the other side of the tracks, to who worked her way up into a career that my family hadn't seen, my immediate family, not my dad's side, but on my mom's side, to walk away, to recreate myself, to get the healing that I needed, to optimize with my resources that I had at my grasp, to change, to have paradigm mindset shifts in how I was thinking, what I was supposed to do as a woman from a marginalized community. How do I take control of myself? How do I stand on the other side of expectancy of what I can get for myself and my capacity to live the life of my dreams and silence the noise and all the other distractions of stuff that doesn't matter. So that's how it started, Shay. Just
And
from that, yes, just from
yeah,
that, I
and there's
went
a
through.
lot going on there. And as you was into it, we were falling and bobbing and weaving through the story. By the way, I'm so glad it's landed where it is, which is on the other side. But can we take at least a couple minutes? And you broke down hope kind of here and there and sparingly
Mhm,
and kind of weaved it in the story. But can you go
mhm.
ahead and now kind of define what is hope and go through the HOPE so someone out there right now can adopt that as part of their philosophy, and then we'll get into how folks can connect with you.
Awesome, awesome. So yes, so the four-step hope system is about the system of reinventing yourself and transitioning, but not just reinventing but transitioning with hope. So when you're talking about the H in the hope system, that is when we're talking about healing. And I shared a couple of things that I had to overcome. I had to overcome imposter syndrome. I had to overcome and accept the fact that it was okay to put me first. So I had to start with that. So, and that is the first thing that I tell people. What is it that you need to be healed from? Now, most of us have to be healed from quite a few things. And again, I'll put disclaimer in there. I am not a therapist or a counselor. I am just an educational enthusiast with lived experiences that has used this to reinvent myself. So let me put that disclaimer out there. You need to get the healing that you need. If it means that you need to take a moment to do self reflecting, to do journaling, to watch videos of what you're desiring or what you're trying to get healed from, or view people that have dealt with what you've dealt with and came on the other side. And the most important thing is to get to the root cause of why you need healing in that area. Now, again, most of us have many areas that we need healing in, but we're just talking about what is something that we could do to be delivered and healed from to move to the next phase with starting school. The O is optimization. So what that basically means is, for those of you that's listening or viewing this episode, that means if you are, I want to you to tell yourself there is never an ideal time to do what it is that you need to do. So therefore, if you're deciding to transition and reinvent yourself, you may not have a lot of money, you may not have a lot of resources, but do you have a smartphone that you can get on the internet? Do you have public transportation where you can ride the bus to get to your public library to use the computer? That is what I'm talking about optimizing with what's in your grasp, what's in your capacity. If you need to do research, and again, no one is judging because we all have been there and have had lack and limited resources. So just say, okay, you know what? I need to do some research. I don't have a computer. My phone is off. But if I've got a dollar, I don't know what it costs to ride public transportation now, but if I've got a dollar, or if I can get a free pass, or if I can call social services and say, hey, this is where I'm at in my life. Are there resources available for me to get on the public transportation so I can get to and from the public library? Are there resources at the library that can maybe let you use the computers for free and let you print things for free? That is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about bare bones to the basics, down and out, your down and out story. But what can you do in that moment during that time to optimize where you are to move to the next level? Now, the next part of the system is the positivity or positive mindset. Or I have another course talking about the paradigm shift. That means that this is unfortunately the hardest one, and it's probably the most popular but unpopular one because it's almost in alignment with AA, changing your playmates, changing your playground. This is where you have to stand tall authentically with certain people who aren't taking you to the fair, but they don't need to ride with you either because they'll have you going someplace else. So let me break that down. During this time, you have to be very, very careful what you're exposing yourself to, because you're trying to remain positive as you can. Meaning, if you have to change, if there's that one family or friend and they're the burden Betty, that means they're always bringing you some bad news. They're always telling you what you can and what you can't do and who didn't and didn't do it well. You may need to, you can still love them, but you may need to limit your time with them. And then expectancy, and I could probably take a whole nother 3 shows to talk about that one. And then on the other side of that is expectancy. We can't obtain something that we don't position ourselves to get ready to receive. That's kind of in alignment with the Bible as well. So you have to be ready to expect. So if you've healed from something, you have optimized with what you have in your grasp, you've done some work on your mindset with positivity. Now you got to get to the E, which is expectancy. So if it is that you said, you know what, out of all of that, I'm going to end up taking me a course in school, then you have to start telling yourself with a positive mindset, I'm going to be expected to start school next semester. I don't know where all the money's going to come from, but I know if I keep working towards that and surrounding myself with people that have done it, I'm expecting to be able to meet that goal and reach that milestone. So that,
Mm,
in a nutshell, Shay, is the Hope system. Some
mhm.
very low level sailor things for them to get started is what I did. And I practiced it until I was able to not just meet those little goals, but to meet several little goals to reach some of the bigger goals, which is to now be an entrepreneur and education consultant and coach. So, and a K-12 content creator. So I've used it to be expecting that I can change my work, I can reinvent myself, I can transition whenever I want. The only thing that stops me is me. The only thing that stops you is you. The only thing that stops them is them. So I always like to start with that, Shay, and I just get so excited talking about the system and reinventing because it's so magical. Because they only looking at people like you, Shay. It's like, oh, look at him, got all this, this number 1 show. It's only Shay can do that. No, if people want to set their minds to something and get healed and optimized and think positive and be expected of what they're trying to receive and reinvent themselves, they can do it. But they
Yeah.
stop themselves because they will talk themselves out of the possibilities of
Yeah.
transitioning themselves.
Man, that is spot on. I mean, you've laid out the case. We've got to definitely have you back. I mean, because there's so
Thank
much
you.
more inside of you. I know they could pour out. As we come down the home stretch, and I wish we had more time, but we're going to have to do this again. Two-part question. Number
Yes.
one, what type of clients are you looking to work with these days, if any? And number two, how can folks connect with it? They're hearing it, they like what they're saying. They're like, man, Shay, how can I stay in the conversation with Tonitia so I can be part of what she's doing? What would you recommend? What should they do?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for asking. So that's actually a very relevant question. And so the first thing that I would say, I actually have an introductory personal development unstuck program that I already have. It's like a workshop, and it is in the MYE Institute. And so if they do bit.ly/MYE Tanisha, they can go there and access that course to get started. And you can also connect with me in the MYE Institute again. That is bit.ly. Well, bit.ly/MYE Tanisha to go there for that course. I'm also going to be having a 2-hour masterclass on April 20. Let me see, where did I put it? Oh my goodness. It's April 26th, I believe. If that's a Saturday from 10 to 2. And you can connect with me in there. My main social media that I go by, I am on Instagram, I am on Facebook, TBL Consultant, on LinkedIn, Tonitia Langley, Tonitia Langley, Senior Education Consultant on LinkedIn. Those are the 2 ways that people can reach out and connect with me. And I would love to see them on April the 26th, which is a Saturday from 10 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you would go to bit.ly/MYE my Tanisha to connect with me and to enroll in that masterclass. Or if you want to enroll in the 45-minute workshop, that's kind of like an introductory into the 4-step hope system of reinventing and transitioning.
Wow. A lot going on. You got a lot of activities, a lot of ways to connect. Let me say thank you so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. We appreciate it. And shout out to Carolyn Wilson for connecting us as well.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Shay. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you to viewers. Thank you for tuning in, by the way, because without you, we don't really have a show. So we appreciate you taking time, allow us to stream on your smart device or your computer or however you listen to this now. Thank you so much. And I never get tired of reminding you every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time that you really are amazing, that you really are incredible, that no matter what's going on in your life right now, whether you've been hit with the punch you never saw coming or you're on the uptick right now, like you're rising, you feel like it's showtime, you're there. Here's what I do know. Your best is still yet to come. Your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. With that being said, my name is Shay Brown. It hasn't changed. The Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. And we'll make some good things how we connect again next time. Peace. Look at you, so excited. We out of here, y'all. Bye-bye.